You've said you got a fair shot, but your predicament made it to Parliament.
So do you think McLaren is biased against Oscar Piastri and costing him the World Championship?
Last year we got ourselves into some scenarios we didn't need to necessarily. I had the confidence very early on in 2025 that if I maximised my potential or even got very close to doing that, then it was going to be enough. You know, at no point were there any bad intentions or certainly no sabotage like I've seen.
Oscar, thanks for your time. It's great to see you. I've come a long way to find you because I know that the onslaught is coming. Have you thought about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a busy season once again, and obviously opening in Melbourne is great. Very busy though, so no, it's nice to be going to the new season, starting off at home. And I think the level of sport in Melbourne's always been fantastic, but I think the last time I went home over Christmas, not long ago, the support was up another level. So I'm looking forward to going back home and racing. Yeah,
I was wondering if you did feel that, because everything went up a level, didn't it, from last year? So when you were back home, did you see how engaged everybody's been in your story, especially over 2025?
Yes, definitely. I think a few more people knew who I was, and I think for me the biggest thing was just how many people said well done, or just kind of acknowledged me in the street or wherever I was very cool. And I think even though the result of 2025 wasn't exactly what I wanted, I think the support was fantastic all the way through, and yeah, it was nothing but positivity, which was great.
Testing is pretty intense and there's more to come, but does it feel like the calm before the storm?
Not necessarily, because there's so many new things to learn for this year. I think the past few years testing has always been obviously a new car at the start of each season, but the 3 years I've been in F1, it's been the same rules and basically an evolution of the previous year's car. Whereas this year it's a complete reset. The engines are completely different. The cars themselves are completely different to what we've had the last few years. So it doesn't really feel that calm because there's so many things to learn and get your head around. So I think we're constantly learning, and again, testing in the previous years has kind of just been building on some of the work from the year before that you want to improve on, whereas this year it's learning completely new things.
2025 for you, Oscar, so many incredible highs and the lows, which is racing. How have you dealt with the way that it played out last year?
Just trying to look at it like that, acknowledge the good moments and the bad. I think every single season is going to have its ups and downs, and that was certainly the case last year. But I think compared to the first couple of years of my F1 career, there was significantly more ups, which was great, and plenty of lessons learned in some of those tougher moments and tougher weekends. So I think for me, just acknowledging the year as a whole, I think it was a really good step forward from 2024, with still some things to work on, some things to improve. So that's how I try and look at it. And again, you always learn more in the tougher moments or the bad moments. And I think I definitely learned some lessons and things I can take forward into 2026 through that, but also prove to myself more than anything that when I get everything together and kind of maximize my potential, that it's good enough to win races.
You've spoken about the tools in the toolbox for 2026. Have you figured out, or do you know what kind of tools you'll need to take that next step and become that world champ?
Still figuring out, I think. In terms of the lessons from last year, yes, I think they're not necessarily things that are always in the car, so to speak, or they're not necessarily attached to driving specifically. They're just a bit broader in terms of the topics. But in terms of the driving and figuring out the tools I need to drive as fast as I can, that's what testing is so critical for this year. Learning, again, from previous years, it was kind of all the car year to year needed the same driving style, needed the same things more or less, with some subtle tweaks. Whereas this year we're getting to know what the car likes, what it doesn't like, what the power unit likes, what it doesn't like. So there's much more kind of experimentation and exploration on that side of things. So yeah, that's kind of developing the tools, but I think some of the ones more off track and just how I approach the weekends, how I approach the season, there's definitely some lessons from last year that I can take into 2026.
You've been around long enough to know that everyone's got an opinion, but did you find it, probably when you went home over Christmas, did you find it amazing? You know, there's kind of two camps about what happened last year. I didn't get a fair go, or it's that's racing. You've said you got a fair shot, but your predicament made it to Parliament.
You deal with transport and cars. So do you think McLaren is biased against Oscar Piastri and costing him the World Championship?
You're asking me for an opinion there.
Yeah, I saw, and I think, you know, for me, the takeaway from that was just how, you know, how closely everyone was supporting it, more than anything else. And yeah, I think, you know, there was certainly no bad intentions last year. And I think as a team, we know that there's things that we could have done a better job of, things we could have done differently, and I know that as well. But you know, at no point were there any bad intentions or certainly no sabotage like I've seen around a few times. But that's part of racing. You know, some things go as you want, some things don't, and you know, we've worked very hard on trying to tidy up some of the things we didn't get right last year, and I'm confident that we can do a better job in 2026 on the whole.
How do you narrow out or iron out those little bugs in the papaya rules, which when they work great, but nothing is always going to be, you know, perfectly seamless. So how have you guys approached the streamlining of that?
I think it is just streamlining it, really. Like, you know, I think last year we got ourselves into some scenarios we didn't need to necessarily, and you know, added a lot more stress to certain things than was probably necessary. And I think we've all, you know, in the off season taken some time to look back on that and realize that there's things we need to do differently. And again, I think all of those scenarios we found ourselves in came from good intentions, but they required a lot of effort at certain points. So I think we've got some good ideas on how we're going to streamline it. You know, I think the biggest message is we want to go racing as fairly as we can, whilst you know, trying to get the most points for the team. And again, you know, it's a bit different if you're fighting for first and second in the World Championship or a little bit further back. So we'll see what our competitiveness is like. But no, I think we've got a good plan on how we can make things a little bit easier for ourselves.
There was a lot coming at you last year, wasn't there? Good and bad. You know, the world of Formula One was moving pretty quickly for you last year. What did you do to switch off?
Just became a normal human, and you know, kind of became Oscar the person and Oscar the boyfriend, the son, the brother, rather than Oscar the F1 driver. So it was really nice to spend time back in Oz with my family, with my friends, because you know, I've spent about 3 weeks there over Christmas, and apart from when we race in Melbourne, which is pretty busy week, that's the only time I get in Australia every year. So for me, being able to spend that time with the people around me and people I love is a really important thing, and that definitely you know, helps to switch off. And I think, you know, I feel like I'm coming back into this year refreshed and focused on 2026 rather than looking back on 2025, obviously taking the lessons I need to, but we've got so many new things for 2026 that you know, it's actually quite nice in some ways that you can just dedicate so much effort and energy onto the future.
Formula One's a funny beast. It's hard enough to get there. It's incredibly hard to stay there, and even harder to win in there. You've managed to tick all of those boxes, and your career's still only young, isn't it? So how different do you think you are now heading into this year of Formula One? Both personally, we're seeing your personality come out and ads and all that stuff. So how different do you think you are as to when you first got into the game?
I think in some ways, not at all. You know, I think in terms of, I just feel more comfortable in the sport. I think that's probably the biggest change. You know, once you have some on-track success, and you know the people around you, and just know the world of F1 a bit more, it's much easier to just be a bit more, creep outside your shell a bit more. And I think that's probably the main difference. And I've obviously learned a lot of lessons through the last 3 years in how I develop as a person and certainly as a driver. And I think a lot of those lessons can translate into this year, even if the cars are very different. So that's probably the main thing, just the comfort, the confidence as well. Again, that was one of the biggest takeaways from last season was, I had the confidence very early on in 2025 that if I maximised my potential or even got very close to doing that, then it was going to be enough. And, that's a nice place to be in.
2 more quick ones. The Oscar Piastri grandstand. Have you thought about how much next level that's going to take you when you get back home?
It's going to be really cool. I think it's, I'm very fortunate to have my own home race and in my home city as well. But to now have my own grandstand is going to be really special, and I'm looking forward to seeing so many people there. And hopefully it's popular. Hopefully it all goes smoothly and goes well. But it's a really cool addition, and looking forward to seeing everyone there in either their McLaren or Oscar Piastri merch.
And the last one is about your mum, right? So I follow your mum on social media. That is fun. Do you follow your mum on social media? Do you see what she says about you and how much fun she's having with your racing career? Do you cringe?
No, I normally see it, yes, but I mean it's stuff she would say to my face. Yeah. So it's a good bit of fun, and it's nice to see my mum enjoying herself as well, and it's nice that everyone else enjoys it too.
Hey, best of luck for the season ahead. Thanks for your time today.
No worries, thank you.